A poor black boy approaches a wealthy, wheelchair-bound woman with an unusual offer. I can cure you if you give me the food you throw away. She laughed, not hiding her scorn. You expect me to believe some back-alley magic from a street kid? Victoria Whitmore's words cut like ice, her pale blue eyes narrowing at the 12-year-old standing at her mansion service entrance. Daniel Thompson had just made the most daring move of his life. For 3 days, he'd watched Victoria throw out full meals while he and his grandmother went to bed hungry across the street. Today, he finally found the courage to knock. I'm serious, Daniel replied, his voice steady even though his heart was racing. I can help you walk again. All I ask is for the food you waste. Victoria let out a sharp, mocking laugh that echoed through the marble halls. Listen, sweetheart, I've spent $15 million on the best doctors money can buy over the past 8 years. You think some kid from the slums who probably can't read is going to fix what the top neurosurgeons couldn't? What Victoria didn't realize was that Daniel Thompson wasn't just some random boy. While she stared at him with disgust, he was quietly studying her every little detail. Years spent helping his diabetic grandmother had trained his eyes to catch what even the most expensive doctors missed. You take pain meds every day at the PM, 3 white pills, 1 blue, he said calmly. And you always say your legs feel cold, even on hot days. Victoria's expression changed. Her smirk faded, replaced by unease. How do you know that? She asked quietly. Daniel had spent weeks watching her routine through the open windows, not out of curiosity, but because her symptoms mirrored those his grandmother once had. But while his grandmother had relied on traditional knowledge passed down through generations, Victoria had chosen to depend only on expensive treatments. I see what your fancy doctors missed, Daniel said. You don't need more drugs. You need someone who understands healing doesn't always come from where you expect. Victoria slammed the door in his face, but Daniel had caught a glimpse of something in her eyes, something new. It wasn't just disdain anymore. It was fear. Fear that this boy might have seen something her doctors had overlooked. As he walked back to the modest apartment he shared with his grandmother Ruth, Daniel allowed himself a faint smile. Victoria had made a critical mistake, underestimating someone who had grown up knowing that survival depended on quiet observation, deep patience, and a kind of wisdom that money couldn't buy. She had no idea that the slum kid before her carried the healing legacy of for generations, and now he knew exactly what her real illness was. If you want to know how a 12-year-old boy saw what elite specialists couldn't, hit that subscribe button. This is a story of prejudice, hidden pain, and healing from the most unexpected place. 3 days had passed since Victoria slammed the door on Daniel, but his words kept echoing in her mind. How could a child know so much? Her exact medications, the time she took them, and symptoms she hadn't even shared with her doctor, her private neurologist. Dr. Hartwell certainly didn't know. So how did that boy? The next morning, still unsettled, Victoria called her personal assistant. Within an hour, she had a full report. Daniel Thompson, age 12, lives with his grandmother, Ruth Thompson, in Riverside Gardens public housing. Father unknown. Mother died in a car crash when he was 5. On a full scholarship at a private school. Top grades. Clean record. Typical, Victoria muttered. Just another poor kid trying to manipulate sympathy. But one detail stood out. Ruth Thompson, 73 years old, retired hospital worker, had been diagnosed with severe diabetes. Medical files showed a surprising recovery in recent years. No explanation, just unexpected clinical improvement. Victoria dismissed it. What could an old woman from a public hospital possibly know that her own doctors didn't? Across the street, Daniel was already preparing his next step. Her reaction had confirmed what he suspected. Victoria wasn't truly paralyzed, not physically. Grandma, Daniel said, sitting beside Ruth on their porch. Can you go over the signs of pseudo-paralysis again? Ruth, who had worked as a nurse for 40 years, smiled. But her deepest medical knowledge didn't come from textbooks. It was passed down from her great-grandmother, a healer and midwife from Mississippi. When doctors once told Ruth she had 6 months to live, it was this ancestral wisdom that saved her. You saw it, didn't you? Ruth said proudly. Her legs respond when she thinks no one's watching. The muscles tighten when she's angry or upset. Daniel nodded. He had noticed it to how her legs twitched when she shouted at staff, how her feet moved when she thought she was alone. She's trapped in her own mind, Daniel murmured. Her body works, but her mind is holding it back. Exactly, Ruth said. I saw 3 cases like hers in the hospital. The trauma lives in the mind, but it shuts down the body. Doctors prefer to treat the physical. It's easier than healing a wounded spirit. That same day, Victoria received a visit from Dr. Hartwell. He had ordered some new scans, hoping to find anything to explain her condition. I need to be honest with you, he said, adjusting his glasses. These results show something odd. Your nerves are active in areas that should be shut down. Neurologically, everything's working. Victoria's face tensed. What does that mean? It means your body isn't the problem. I've suspected this for a while. You may need deeper psychological care. You think I'm faking this, she snapped. You think I spent 8 years in this chair for fun? No, your condition is real. But the cause might be emotional, not physical. Before he could finish, Victoria dismissed him. She didn't want to hear it, because if he was right, it meant her suffering had been self-inflicted. At worst, a poor child had figured it out before anyone else. That night, Victoria sat alone at her window, staring at the apartment across the street. She could see the warm light glowing through Daniel's curtains. That family barely had enough money for food, yet somehow possessed wisdom that her fortune had failed to buy. For a moment, Victoria felt something strange humility, but she swallowed it with a fresh wave of bitterness. That boy will not humiliate me, she hissed. I won't be mocked by someone from the slums. But while Victoria stewed in anger, Daniel sat at his kitchen table with Ruth, planning carefully. He knew Victoria's type, too proud to accept help, too wealthy to appreciate wisdom, and too broken to trust anyone. She won't listen to us, he said. No, Ruth replied. But that's not your job. Your job is to show her the truth even if she hates you for it. Daniel had learned something important. Sometimes, to truly heal someone, you have to show them exactly how sick they really are. In the days that followed, the relationship between Daniel and Victoria shifted into a silent war. Victoria, determined not to be humiliated by a boy from the slums, quietly launched a campaign to make him disappear. Her first move was a call to Daniel's school. This is Victoria Whitmore from the Whitmore Foundation. She said to the principal, I need to report a scholarship student, Daniel Thompson. He's been harassing neighbors and trespassing on private property. The accusation worked. The next day, Daniel was summoned by Principal Patterson and warned, You're on thin ice. Any more trouble, and your scholarship could be at risk. Then came the pressure at home. Victoria contacted the superintendent of Daniel's apartment complex, suggesting there were disruptive elements disturbing the peace. He couldn't legally evict them, but he made life difficult. Unfounded noise complaints, threats of fines, surprise inspections over trivial issues. She's trying to force us out, Daniel told Ruth as she brewed their nightly tea, so she won't have to face what I know. Ruth listened calmly. At 73, she'd seen this before. Racism, classism, the ways power is used to silence people without it. She's scared, Ruth said simply. People like her use their power when they're afraid, and when they fear the truth, they'll attack whoever threatens to reveal it. But what if she takes away my scholarship or gets us evicted? Ruth looked at him, wise and unshaken. Let me tell you a story, she began. When your mother was your age, a white doctor at the hospital tried to push me out. I knew. Treatments, he didn't. He used everything he had to destroy my credibility. What did you do? I waited. I studied. I kept records. Then one day, his wealthy patient, who had a condition I'd treated many times, was dying. Nothing worked. Guess who they came to? You. Yes. And I saved that man's life using the methods that doctor had mocked. After that, he lost everything, his position, his pride, not because I destroyed him, but because truth has a way of surfacing. Daniel understood. Victoria wasn't just trying to ruin him. She was trying to bury the truth that she had turned away, healing from someone she looked down on. You get it now, Ruth said, smiling. We don't just heal the body, son. Sometimes we heal the soul of a whole society. That night, Daniel dug deeper, using the school's library computers. He researched everything he could about Victoria Whitmore. He discovered something unexpected. Victoria hadn't been born wealthy. Her real name was Victoria Kowalski, the daughter of poor Polish immigrants. She married into Money Harrison Whitmore III, heir to a fortune built in the 1800s through slave labor. The so-called accident that had left her paralyzed happened just one day after she found out. Harrison was planning to divorce her for a younger woman. 2 years later, Harrison was dead. The cause? A heart attack just 1 week after changing his will to leave everything to Victoria. Digging further, Daniel uncovered the most painful connection of all. His family had served the Whitmores for generations. His great-grandfather had been enslaved. On their plantation, his grandmother, Ruth, had cared for Harrison's mother when she was dying. Even more shocking, Ruth had secretly cured Harrison's mother using traditional treatments. But the credit went to doctors. The truth was never known. The next morning, Daniel sat down beside Ruth. Victoria isn't just physically sick. She's carrying guilt, fear, and shame. Her body is mirroring the prison she built for her soul. Ruth nodded with pride. That's real healing, my boy. Helping someone see who they really are even if they hate you for it. Over the next few days, Daniel watched Victoria differently. Every cruel comment, every attempt to hurt him, it all pointed to the same conclusion. Her paralysis wasn't physical. It was emotional, born from guilt and denial. And so, Daniel began preparing the final step, not just to cure her, but to confront her with the truth she buried for years. Victoria had no idea the boy she tried to crush was armed with 4 generations of knowledge and the power to both heal and expose her. Each of her attacks only proved he had diagnosed not just her illness, but the deep rot at the core of her life. The final confrontation came on a quiet Sunday morning. Daniel rang the front bell, not the back door. Victoria answered, surprised, to find Daniel, Ruth, and a third person, Dr. Patricia Williams, the neurologist who had once treated Harrison's mother. Good morning, Victoria, Daniel said. I'm here to keep my promise. Today, you walk. What is this? She spat. I've called security. Do it, Daniel said. They'll want to hear this too, especially when they learn who you really are. Ruth opened an old briefcase. Victoria Kowalski, born July 19, 1975, married Harrison Whitmore 3 months after discovering he was unfaithful. Victoria's face turned pale. No one had used her real name in decades. Daniel continued. The accident happened one day after you learned he planned to leave you. Convenient timing, wouldn't you say? Dr. Williams stepped forward with medical records. I treated Harrison's mother. Ruth here cured her, but the family never knew. And after your accident, I ran tests on you. Your nervous system was perfectly functional, but you paid me $5 million to lie, didn't you? You can't prove that. Victoria STAMMERED. Daniel pulled out a recorder. Actually, I can. Your own security system recorded all your phone calls. Her voice played loud and clear. Stick to the diagnosis, Dr. Williams. If Harrison finds out I can walk, I lose everything. Keep quiet, and I'll double your fee. You tap my calls, she screamed, and I recorded you walking 43 videos, Ruth said calmly. You walk when no one's watching, even jog on a treadmill. Daniel connected his phone to a speaker. Videos played Victoria getting up from her chair, walking through the house, reaching high shelves, dancing in secret. Stop, she yelled. There's more, Daniel said. You changed Harrison's will while he was sedated. Then, you covered up his death. Dr. Williams hung her head. She blackmailed me. I signed off on a fake cause of death to protect myself. He was poisoned, Ruth added. Digitalis, common in the foxglove plant. Looked like a heart attack, nearly impossible to detect after a few days. Victoria collapsed into her chair, her world crashing down. You don't get it, she said. He was going to leave me with nothing. I gave him everything. And now, Daniel said, it's time for the real cure. Get up. I can't. Get up. The sharp command hit her like a switch. On instinct, Victoria stood. Rage and fear filled her face, but she was standing. You're cured, Daniel said quietly. Ruth handed over a folder. These will go to the police, the FBI, the IRS, fraud, murder, tax evasion, and the media. The world's going to know, Daniel said, not just about your lies, but about the truth you tried to erase. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the police. You'll be truly paralyzed now, Ruth said, in a cell. Without your riches, without your lies. Victoria looked at Daniel full of hatred, but also respect. How did you destroy me? She asked. I didn't, Daniel said. You destroyed yourself. You underestimated someone who learned that survival doesn't come from money. It comes from wisdom. As officers climbed the steps, Victoria stood alone in the doorway, no longer a victim, no longer a fraud hidden behind wealth. The marble halls that once held her illusions now echoed with truth. A 12-year-old boy had shown her and the world that the most powerful healing doesn't come from money. but from knowledge passed down by those the world is taught to ignore.